It's that little American hussy he's hooked up with. She's come to turn him into a Kardashian.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
You know what's going on. Someone wanted a lot of attention, and now they got it.
Meghan Markle's Netflix dream is miserably falling apart, and everyone's watching. Once upon a time in Montecito, Meghan Markle thought she had it all figured out. A camera, a kitchen, a dreamy glow filter, and a whispery monologue later, she was ready to step into her next role, America's favorite lifestyle queen. But now, the candles are flickering, the bread's gone cold, and the internet is already picking apart the remains. And guess who was first in line with a popcorn bucket full of mockery? Joe Rogan. That's right. Before most people could even finish watching Meghan's emotional interview, Joe was already airing her out. On his podcast, he called the whole thing Oscar-worthy sobs, with a smirk that said he wasn't buying any of it. But the real question wasn't just whether Meghan was putting on a show, it was whether Netflix was finally over it. And the headline that broke the dam was that Meghan Markle's Netflix show might get canceled. It all began when With Love Meghan quietly premiered on March 4th, 2025. You'd think a duchess cooking on camera with beeswax candles and poetic voiceovers would be an instant hit. But critics were not kind. One reviewer described it as queasy and exhausting, while another said it felt like watching someone try to be Oprah and Martha Stewart at the same time, but with less warmth and more product placement. And then came the pretzel bag incident.
They don't know why.
That's interesting. She takes it from one bag and puts it in another bag.
It's another bag.
That confuses people.
They don't know why.
Okay.
Yes, Meghan went viral for showing how to rebag store-bought pretzels in personalized pouches. Jimmy Fallon couldn't resist. On his show, he asked, with a straight face, why Meghan was spending her day hand-tying pretzel snacks like she was prepping for a baby shower in Versailles. The internet erupted with jokes, and one viewer called it Martha Stewart meets a midlife crisis, with a full film crew and soft lighting. It also didn't help that Netflix, trying to defend the show, claimed it pulled in 12.6 million viewing hours in its debut week. Was that impressive? Not quite. For someone constantly in the headlines and supposedly one of the most talked about women in the world, those numbers were lukewarm at best. And while insiders claim season 2 is already filmed, don't start popping the champagne just yet. Because in the world of television, filming doesn't mean release. Rumors are swirling that Netflix may never air it. There have been no announcements and no press, just a slow fade into nothingness. Quiet exits are sometimes louder than cancellations.
And with all that said, With Love Meghan has to be the most insufferable TV show I've ever seen in my life.
Meanwhile, Meghan's PR team is doing damage control at full volume. They're insisting the show is still going strong, but behind all the optimism is a whiff of desperation. Netflix claims they renewed the show for another season the same week the first one dropped, but it felt less like confidence and more like panic. When a show is greenlit that fast, but fails to trend beyond a few polite tweets from your aunt's friend who once watched The Crown, it's not a flex, it's a red flag. To make things messier, Netflix had to publicly deny sending cease and desist letters to a celebrity chef who criticized the show. Just a few bad reviews, and suddenly there were whispers of legal drama. When your cooking show is spawning lawsuits instead of lasagna recipes, something's clearly off. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because this isn't Meghan's first Netflix flameout. Let's rewind to Pearl, her animated project from 2021. That show never even made it to screens. It was quietly canceled after Netflix decided children's content wasn't worth the inevitable drama. And that wasn't the only issue with Pearl. A British author accused Meghan of lifting the concept straight from her books and said she never got a response after raising the concern. So even when a show gets canceled, the drama doesn't. But where Meghan truly shines are the tears. And she brought them back for a new kind of audience. On Jamie Kern-Lima's show, Meghan arrived with a fresh face, her children's names printed on her shirt, and a carefully timed emotional spiral. She wiped a tear, looked straight into the camera, and said she was here to prove she was enough.
I guess on days that are hard, that's really grounding and affirming to remember. And then some days I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is this life? I would have never predicted it.
Some viewers found it moving, others felt it was déjà vu, a familiar playbook, just with new lighting. Even body language experts jumped into the conversation. They claimed her blinking pattern changed when she spoke about Prince Harry, and her voice wavered just enough to raise suspicion. Suddenly, TikTok was flooded with videos debating whether she could actually cry on command. And spoiler, the internet seems to think she can. Now, let's talk about the actual show. With Love, Meghan isn't really a cooking series. It's more like a dream sequence. Bees buzz gently in the background. Tea pours in slow motion. There are edible flowers, pastel plates, and long shots of Meghan gazing thoughtfully out a window. It's less about recipes and more about aesthetics. And by the end, she whispers, "Here we go, it's a business," as if she's letting viewers in on some big secret. Except, we already knew. Every frame feels like an ad for her upcoming cookware line. Unsurprisingly, the internet wasn't sold. Critics said the tone was out of touch, especially when so many people are struggling with real-world problems like rent, groceries, and basic gas money. Watching a duchess microdose wildflower honey while talking about healing energy didn't exactly land well with audiences. Still, Meghan seems undeterred. Maybe she truly believes she's building a brand. Maybe she thinks she's inspiring people. Or maybe she's doubling down on the only persona she knows, which is polished, emotional, and always camera ready. Now, the storm didn't hit all at once. It crept in slowly, but when it landed, it shattered the illusion. Meghan Markle's glittery Netflix show, once hyped as the next big thing in lifestyle entertainment, got dragged harder than a royal family tree on Twitter. And the first hit came from the British press, predictably but brutally. No sugarcoating here. The Times tossed out a headline that read like a jab in heels, calling the show worse than just smug and syrupy. If you thought that was harsh, the Telegraph followed up with something colder, far worse than feared. Then came the New York Post, slapping on words like beautiful, boring, vapid, and entitled. Ouch.
I am, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not just saying this for rhetorical effect. I am physically nauseated watching that clip.
That wasn't the end. That was just the beginning. Almost overnight, TikTok turned into Meghan's unofficial roast club. Memes popped up faster than she could stir her organic stew. People filmed themselves mimicking her slow-motion tea stirs, her breathy monologues while snipping herbs, and her signature stare somewhere between thoughtful and deeply confused into the abyss. It was less relatable queen and more queen of cringe. If awkward elegance was a genre, Meghan had just defined it. But here's the twist. Netflix didn't back away. Instead of hitting pause, they announced Season 2. But before we blame the viewers, let's not forget, not everyone was hating on it. A few celebrities tossed in their defenses. Think pieces sprouted like lavender in spring, claiming the backlash was really just coded racism. Others argued she was romanticizing the ordinary. Well, if the ordinary includes dusting edible flower petals on hand-squeezed citrus in a $14,000 kitchen, sure. Now let's cut to the real tension, because if Meghan's Netflix career is on a lifeline, Joe Rogan is ready. This isn't just another celebrity fumbling through a rebrand. Meghan walked out of the palace with her head held high, but what she didn't expect was the full media firing squad waiting right outside the gate, and Joe Rogan has been front and center since day one. Let's rewind to the early days of Just Harry. Back when Prince Harry first settled into American soil with an open collar and closed friends list, Joe Rogan was already rolling his eyes. On the Joe Rogan Experience, he mockingly referred to him as the Duke of Sussex, the way someone might snark at a guy who insists on being called Dragon Slayer at a Renaissance fair.
You just can't keep faking it. It's too hard.
And what sparked it? It was a missed wreath. Harry was apparently devastated that no one placed a memorial wreath in his name. Joe Rogan used the moment to rip him apart, questioning why anyone should be mourning Harry's absence when the man had already distanced himself from the very institution he wanted to honor. But it didn't stop there. Joe Rogan dove deeper, crafting his own satirical theory. Meghan wasn't just a duchess, she was the head of a cult. According to Rogan, Harry hadn't found peace. He'd been emotionally abducted, pulled from his royal roots, dropped into Hollywood's backyard, and now doomed to a lonely existence, while Meghan launched jam brands and wrapped pretzels like she was entering a state fair bake-off. The digs kept coming. On another episode, Joe went for the jugular, questioning why Americans were so obsessed with royalty to begin with. In his words, fangirling over the monarchy felt like celebrating the very people whose ancestors once ruled your land.
That's the big distraction.
That's the big distraction right there.
There's a war room apparently in England where they're trying to figure out what to do.
Oh, really?
I heard did you hear about that? Yes.
And while he didn't name Meghan directly, the subtext was clear. She was milking the royal connection harder than anyone ever had. And she was. Enter her lifestyle brand. As ever, home teas, fruit preserves, and earth tone napkins with poetic labels, the whole thing sold out in under an hour. But critics weren't clapping. They called it an identity crisis in mason jars. Because when someone moves from royalty to rustic influencer to soft-spoken jam mogul in the span of a few years, people start to wonder if this is branding or a breakdown in disguise.
Switching gears, Meghan Markle just announced her new lifestyle brand called As Ever, which is a little confusing because it used to be called American Riviera Orchard.
Then came her return to Instagram. January 1st, 2025. A serene video was posted showing waves lapping, a manicured hand writing 2025 in the sand. It sounds sweet until fans noticed she filmed it multiple times to get it authentically candid. Comments were turned off, likely to avoid another avalanche of backlash. Still, the internet did its job. Screenshots, memes, and side-by-side edits made the message clear. This wasn't organic. It was all staged. But the next PR stumble? No one saw that coming. Meghan visited wildfire victims, which was admirable. But her gift was a Billie Eilish t-shirt. Not water, not blankets, not funding, just merch. People called it tone-deaf, performative, and most painfully irrelevant. Social media lit up, not in admiration, but in disbelief. It felt like a skit from a forgotten season of The Office, not a humanitarian gesture from someone with millions in media deals. And this wasn't just a California crisis. The royal feud was still burning bright. Insiders whispered that Prince William deeply regretted not cutting the cord sooner. Now he's gone full ghost, with no messages, no replies, and possibly blocking Harry's number altogether. Meanwhile, King Charles has reportedly been stewing ever since Harry accused palace officials of jeopardizing his family's safety. During a BBC sit-down, Harry allegedly asked his father to step aside. Charles's response was just plain silence and a private comment calling the move undignified. Even Jason Goff, William's former communications lead, chimed in with carefully worded sorrow over the sad breakdown between the brothers. But come on, this isn't about miscommunication anymore. It's not about one family member going rogue. This has evolved into a full-blown Shakespearean mess. But here's the real kicker. Even with all the scrutiny, some people are still sipping the Meghan Kool-Aid. Gwyneth Paltrow signed on for a guest spot on Meghan's cooking show, likely while microdosing crushed moon rocks and whispering affirmations to her fridge. Martha Stewart said she was curious, which, coming from the Empress of Homemaking, is like Gordon Ramsay saying your microwave dinner looks passable. Jose Andres applauded her charity work, which sounds nice until you realize he applauds everybody. Meanwhile, over on the internet, YouTubers rushed to defend Meghan's podcast after she was accused of copying the title Confessions of a Female Founder. One influencer called the plagiarism claims unlikely, but not everyone's buying it. The backlash machine was already cranking at full speed. Jimmy Fallon's infamous pretzel joke, where he roasted Meghan's DIY snack packaging, has practically entered late-night folklore. On TikTok, the deepfake Meghan trend exploded. People started spoofing her overly polished beach videos, her staged emotions, and those suspiciously choreographed stares into the horizon. Each parody was funnier and meaner than the last. Fox News anchors had a field day, and Piers Morgan came swinging harder than ever, saying he wouldn't trust Meghan if she told him the sky was blue. He even joked he'd need a meteorologist to confirm it. British tabloids didn't hesitate to drag her either. They labeled her Netflix debut soulless, awkward, and pastel-colored propaganda. One panel even described the entire show as a hostage tape with candles and better lighting. But oddly enough, that wasn't even the most explosive thing she's ever said. Flashback to 2021. Meghan was sitting across from Oprah in a serene California garden, wearing a black and white dress like she was about to drop the season finale of a primetime drama, and decided to detonate a royal scandal on live television. She didn't hold back. Casually, she mentioned that someone in the royal family allegedly questioned how dark baby Archie's skin would be. Oprah's reaction, a shocked "what?" was instantly turned into a meme, a headline, and a cultural flashpoint. Meghan stressed that Archie would be the monarchy's first mixed-race child and described those skin tone comments as shocking. She didn't name names, but then Harry popped in with his own line. It wasn't grandma or grandpa. So Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip were off the hook, but the rest of the royal roster, fair game. The palace issued a response that was the verbal equivalent of dodging eye contact. They said they were saddened and would address it privately, which in royal code means, let's pretend this never happened. No receipts ever came out, no confirmations, just a mushroom cloud of speculation. Meghan never followed up, never named anyone, and the palace never called her bluff, which made it all the more mysterious. Then came a strange twist. In 2023, Vanity Fair reported that Meghan did tell King Charles who made the remark, but only in private. So apparently, she dropped the bomb in public, but revealed the target behind closed doors. And just when you thought things couldn't get heavier, Meghan revealed something even darker. In that same Oprah interview, she confessed that she once felt suicidal while part of the royal institution. She said, "I didn't want to be alive anymore," and that when she sought help, a senior staff member told her she could only get support if she left the family. That's not a mental health resource. That's a polite shove toward the exit. The media predictably lost its mind. British outlets accused her of being manipulative. Others said she was playing the sympathy card. And Harry lashed out. He said the press was bullying Meghan and warned that history is repeating itself, drawing a pointed comparison to Princess Diana. But critics weren't buying it. They noted that all of Meghan's most damning claims were built on her words alone. It was just emotionally charged storytelling, and millions of people caught in the middle. If you thought that would slow her down, think again. Fast forward to September 2020. Meghan and Harry made a video for Time 100, urging Americans to vote in the upcoming presidential election. Seems harmless, right? Wrong.
You're playing a critical role for our future and that of our children. Seeing our world through the lens of community is so important because we need to redraw the lines of how we engage with each other, both online and off.
They called it the most important election of our lifetime, while urging viewers to reject hate speech and online negativity. Sounds noble, until you realize how thinly veiled the messaging was. Even without naming names, it was clear who they weren't rooting for. Let's just say, it wasn't the guy in the red cap. Buckingham Palace tried to patch the hole. They released a statement saying Harry was no longer a working royal, and therefore, not bound by the usual rules. But insiders were livid. One even claimed he had crossed the line. Meghan, of course, brushed it off like lint on a couture dress. In an interview with Fortune, she claimed, "If you actually listen to what I said, it's not controversial." Which, to be fair, is exactly what someone would say after quietly setting fire to a diplomatic bridge. And yet, the controversies didn't stop. October 2023 brought even more heat. The Israel-Hamas conflict erupted globally, and the couple's Archewell Foundation released a statement that felt more like a legal draft than a humanitarian call. They condemned all acts of terrorism and brutality, offered support to all innocent victims, and carefully avoided taking sides. Some applauded the balance, others saw it as cowardice. Then came the real disaster. Reports revealed that Archewell had been financially supporting a Muslim charity whose founder had previously made highly controversial statements. This included calling Israel an apartheid state and using the politically loaded phrase, "from the river to the sea." The backlash was instant. Headlines exploded. Screenshots flew across social media. Meghan and Harry allegedly panicked, cut off the funding, and released a statement of dismay. But here's the thing. They only expressed outrage after the public did, which left people wondering, were they truly unaware of where their money was going? Or did they just assume no one would look too closely? And that's the story of Meghan Markle right now, a woman spinning between celebrity and controversy, between curated calm and viral chaos. Every step forward seems shadowed by a new headline. Every move calculated, every word dissected. She's no longer just the actress or the Duchess or even the podcast host. Meghan Markle has become something else entirely, an ongoing story that is yet to reach its end.